Too bad you didn't say that one live online. Anyways, welcome to the 2 Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter at the University of Rochester, in which we take a giant book, break it down bit by bit, section by section. We are reading The Tunnel by William Gass, and we are up to the section The Curse of Colleagues, which goes up through page 437. I'm Chad Post from Open Letter Books, joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox. How are you doing, man?
I'm here as always, so I guess I'm doing fine. Everything
You
is
always have
fine.
like the perfect, like beautiful background to your shot where it's like blue sky, sunny, looks warm, everything like looks like where it's supposed to be.
Well, I was about to have seasonal affective disorder because it's been a little foggy and misty here for about 2 days, and we dropped down to the 60s, and so I thought I'm going to need to make BetterHelp.com. And it's shout out to BetterHelp.com. No, it's gorgeous here. I have no complaints. Yeah, I won the lottery.
It was negative 23 degrees real feel here 2 days
Oh
ago.
my goodness. Yeah,
So,
no.
so, so also joined by senior editor at Coffeehouse Press, Kaija Straumanis. How are you doing?
Great.
Not as warm,
No, not
not
as
as,
warm,
not as sunny.
not as sunny,
S-
and yet I persist.
So have you tunneled into Coffee House yet? Have you started? Are you waiting
In,
until after the holiday?
into or out of.
Yeah, exactly.
Get your tunnel on.
Get your tunnel on. There's a good shirt. Get your tunnel on.
Yeah? You gonna answer this
Oh, I
question?
mean, yeah, we're tunneling. Every day I'm tunneling.
Okay, okay. How,
I will speak for you in one thing. So, former guest of the podcast, Mark Haber, his new book, Ada, Kai has been proofreading recently and loving. So, shouts
Yes.
to Mark, shouts to Ada,
is it
everybody.
Ada or Ada?
I asked him last night on podcast. He said Ada.
I know. I'm going to call it Ada or Ada.
I said,
Ada or Ada.
I told him his next book should be Or Arter, so that Rodrigo has to read both.
Yeah, there you go. For
Okay.
the longtime fans, we read this book about incest. But yeah,
we were reading about incest before it was cool.
way before it was cool. Yeah.
That has nothing to do with Mark's book. I'll just give that one spoiler. Mark's book,
Oh, okay.
Ada is very very lacking, and or that's a negative. It has no incest, and I think that's a good thing.
Okay.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Sure.
You should, if you don't follow Mark on Instagram, you should follow him just for the image that he drew from as inspiration for his book. That's on Instagram today. It is a famous Flemish painter, I believe, or artist of a rich man kicking the shit out of a peasant,
Well, kicking and missing.
kicking and missing a peasant, which is a whole other discussion
Yeah.
about why he's not kicking the peasant, but nevertheless, very fun. Mark's great. Coffee House is great. You guys are kicking ass.
Yeah,
So,
Kicking Ass have a lot of good books coming out. And yeah, like
but also, I think that's a good segue into our section of the curse of colleagues, because now you have colleagues. So, and you're on this private podcast where you can just truly let loose on like what you think of
and I'm
everyone
gonna
around you.
start with Mark fucking Haber. That SOB. No, Mark is one of the nicest people anyone could ever meet. And truly, not just because I don't think that anyone will listen to this podcast from there, but they're all very nice people, and it's a very good environment and very, very cool collective. But you say that I was not thinking about my colleagues. I was thinking about this section in parallel to the insane amount of Real Housewives episodes I tend to watch in a given week.
Are, are those considered colleagues? The
I,
the housewives are colleagues of one another?
I mean, yeah, because they are working. That is their job, is to be on the Housewives. So yeah, I don't know that I could talk to you guys about this, but I started thinking toward the end of this section, which academic is most like which housewife in the two housewife franchises that I do watch.
That's what I say. Do you think that these colleagues do they parallel with other people's profession, or is this unique to the academic environment?
And I kind of think
In
that they're I
in
think they're kind
particular,
of universal.
the
Yeah.
universe in the university.
Yeah, I think I would
You
say
think it's universal? Okay. Like
the
these are archetypes?
yeah.
I would think so. Like I think there's always that one hard ass, the one person who's always like quipping with dumb jokes and is just silly. There's the guy who's like never wanting to like cause waves and is like, it's all okay, let's all blah, blah, blah. And then there's the one that gets dosed by their daughter and sees God.
AKA there's always an Italian in the group.
I didn't think there were any Italians in here. There were some other words for Italians, but not Italians.
We
There's
can say
only
WAP, right?
WAP.
That's
Yeah, WAP is
okay.
totally allowed. That's yeah.
I will be
We're
honest,
way past Godfather 2 in
way
those
past it.
days.
Because I did start this section listening to the audiobook again, the the first several times and just the context in which Gas reads WAP out loud and the way in which Governale is described, I assumed he just meant wet ass pussy as in like a little groveling bitch. And I was like, yeah, that tracks. He's just like a moist milk toast is what Governale is.
They could do another song called WAP. It's like Wide Open. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Just
Just brainstorm this
just,
one.
just brainstorming some bangers, you know.
So,
Well, I don't because I yes and no. Like I think yes, there could be the archetypes, but I do feel like the academic environment, as far as employment is concerned, is it's like kind of unique compared to most people's work. Because it's not like I don't know. I feel like it's not like you're beholden to like a bottom line of I don't know. Like it's not like a there's a profit loss statement, which like most people in a job, it's like I don't know. If I don't do X Y Z, like I'm out of here. Whereas like in academia, it's like that person's been here for 70 years. I don't know. They've never done a single good thing ever. How are they still here? Like
that's rare. That whole like I feel like that one of the things that's going to change out of this whole moment for universities and whatnot is the tenure system, and it'll be good on unions and good on professors to protect that as much as possible,
Yeah.
despite like what we're about to say. But like that idea of like you get in when you're like in your late 30s and you cross a certain threshold and you have a job for life in which you can basically not be fired and just fuck up like repetitively. That is the greatest idea. That is utopia for my dream. That is my dream. Absolutely.
yeah.
Also, can never get it.
But I don't want to derail it. But like, isn't that kind of but isn't that sort of thing necessary so that I mean, I assume like maybe the heart of it is, and maybe I'm pretty naive to this because I'm kind of an outsider looking in when it comes to the academic environment. But I would think that's necessary so that you can like teach truth,
That's the concept behind it. That you're
right?
protected
Like
from
I'm
like
protect. Like
yeah,
I don't care if what I say is going to be offensive. This is the history of whatever my field is, and maybe it's not popular now, but you know, I don't have to worry about what's you know what the trends are, this or that. Like I'm protected, and I'm gonna share with you. And then really, it's just so I can sleep with somebody if I want to.
yeah, which is the one thing that can get you your tenure taken away. Apparently,
Oh, dang
not
it.
even that. Like we had the
Okay.
guy at Rochester that like molested all those, or I don't know, allegedly did some bad shit, and he's still tenured. He still teaches. He's still got like a very high paying position. So because the university fought back and was like, or the
Let's be
faculty.
clear. There is a rich tradition going all the way back to the Romans and Greeks with hanging out with young people naked. That's happened forever. Okay, so let's not like just calm down a second here.
Let's not throw Co out with the bathwater just for touching a boobie.
For Betty booping his way
For Betty
through
Boop.
for Betty booping his way through his career through
All
tenure.
right, so what we're 8 minutes in. We're already doing naked sex parties in academia and Nazis. Okay, yeah,
Time for a summary.
okay,
So about the Epstein files, and
yeah,
how they
yeah.
intersect with this book. So quick summary.
Harvard, the Harvard.
Which
There you go. We're there.
it's always interesting to see students getting in trouble for filming their president doing nasty things, but that's cool. So this section, more or less, quick summary is that it describes the four other professors, or I assume tenured professors at the university that Kohler's at. they kind of gives them like a rundown of their character, a little bit of their history. They each have a different part that we can talk about in terms of their background. But then this is centered around a meeting and kind of three events. One being this Betty Boop incident that we referred to, in which Kohler supposedly gets caught in his room with a young lady by a secretary coming into his office when the lights are off, and he gets in a little trouble for that. And then they having a meeting is the main impetus of this chapter, in which the meeting is run by Plan Mantee, I think is how you'd say
Yep.
it. Plan Mantee is running this meeting where he's got two complaints. One is that there's another student who has complained indirectly about Kohler touching her boobs and cornering her and making her like write about brothels in World War II. And then also is complaining that Kohler is backing someone writing their thesis on Annunzio, I think is how you say that, who is a poet and writer who is associated with the fascist party, becomes kind of a supporter of Mussolini, but then there's a little, I looked into a little bit, there's like, he's liberal at times and not, becomes part of the fascist stuff, so he's controversial. And they're pissed that like there was an earlier thesis about Ezra Pound, this one that's not appropriate, blah 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 blah, and they have a meeting, which is I think the real upshot of this philippic or this little rant is that these fucking meetings are meaningless and like are filled with like undertones of hatred and dislike and like various like shots that are being fired, and yet they're basically like ineffectual, or they're like, what are we gonna do, take it to the chair? He ain't gonna do nothing's gonna, we should go to the dean. No, we can't go to the dean, let's just like, we'll just end for the weekend sort of vibe to it all. Brian, what'd you think?
Well, I thought it was an interesting. I don't know, interesting is the right word. I like the artistically. I like the choice of going from this memory of like his domestic life, and now it switches to something very like prescient in his professional life. And so I think we're like starting to get this more kind of very well rendered look into Kohler and Kohler's opinion. Like before, it's like kind of like blaming, why I am the way I am, why life is the way it is, and now it's like this, like you're seeing everything at a head with this section. And so I like that shift that we get with this section compared to the last.
Yeah, there's that. Kai, what are you thinking?
Agreed. I think it's interesting. I think this is one of my favorite Kohler voices when he is thinking about ruminating, reporting on his colleagues in the department. Um, I mean, it's very, yeah, like my father was a professor. You're a professor,
Not
instructor.
really.
Brian, you teach, instruct, also profess. So it's reminiscent of what I've heard throughout my life from people I'm connected to who are in academia. You just, you kind of unload about your colleagues, and so it feels a little like not nostalgic, but it feels familiar. And I just like his commentary on these other people, and it also, I texted you guys about this earlier. It doesn't help me in this mental space of, are these people real or not? Um,
Yeah.
and so I think that's interesting also, is the detail with which all these colleagues are described, if they are not real, is bonkers in Kohler's world. It is absolutely bonkers to go to that extent, describing essentially yourself, different parts of yourself. If they are real, then it's, I don't know, then it feels superficial in a strange way. I'm not sure how to really put my finger on it. But I liked it. And it made me think of the Real Housewives.
Yeah,
Because
I
there's
found it.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, Herschel, just want to touch on Herschel. There is always that one housewife who is like the quiet one, who's just biding her time, collecting information on everybody,
Stroking out in the bathroom while they
working out
piss.
in the bathroom, um, that everyone wants to have on their side at the end of the day. And you're not entirely sure why you want this person's loyalties, but you crave it. Um, Yeah, so really what I'm saying, guys, is that academia, like professors, are the same as Real Housewives. I was just reading, this is just an episode of the Real Housewives of the German or the history department in this Midwestern university, but the housewives are male professors.
I looked into the history department at Purdue, which is where he would have been when he was writing this. There are of the full professors, I think there's eight. I think I counted maybe nine, and there were two that focus on Germany. One of which does teach a class on Hitler. So I was like, oh, this is fun. I mean, if you were in that position now and knew of this book, would you feel uncomfortable? I think I would.
A
I
little
think
bit,
I'd be like,
a little bit.
I don't know. Maybe I should not mention this in my bio.
What I noticed in this section, and it could be me and my attention span, was I found that the colleagues, they kind of started to stew together.
Mm-hmm.
Like after
Absolutely.
like after the like it feels almost kind of like looping, like this list of grievances that we're getting,
Yep.
and after a while, it's almost as if they just kind of like congeal into this, like, this is what's wrong with everything, and like it's hard to know which is which because they're all kind of becoming the same thing.
It's a collegiate head cheese.
Yeah, exactly, a collegiate head cheese. But I just like noticed, like, overall, like, they're all kind of just meh. They're all mid. They're all like mediocre. They're all kind of like don't stand for anything. They're kind of
Yeah.
cowards. They're
Yep.
It's just surviving in bureaucracy. So like don't stand out in a
Yep.
way,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Well, it's kind of like which I forget which one of them was it. Was it Herschel that talks about this, or where they're talking about the arguments among like philosophers or among historians, and they're like, oh, there's a quarter on the table, and all the philosophers are arguing about whether that's the same penny that we see when we see the penny, and
Yeah.
everything's different, blah blah blah. And it's like someone picks it up and uses it to buy like a Coke out of their, proving that it was in their pocket. Now it's still real. It's there. You don't have to do this. That sort of like meaningless arguments for the sake of like debating these kind of high-minded philosophies, that seems to run throughout this section a little bit too. Like
Yeah.
there's like even down to where you like, I honestly don't understand what happens to Herschel and the when they're pissing next to each other. I don't know. It seemed to me as like, did he just have like a seizure? But where they're talking, and it seems like he trips, like Kohler fucks up Herschel by keeps saying like, oh, here's a list of like people you wouldn't expect to be anti-Semites, but they were anti-Semites. And he's just like rolling up these names, and Herschel's like, ah, and like freaks out and just like goes down. But there's that kind of like, it's all kind of a game. It's all a little bit of a game. It all doesn't really matter in the real world. The real world part of this, there's the idea of like, what is history? What is like these philosophies? What can you talk about when you're teaching? What is the point of all this? And then the real world part is he traps a girl in his room and he tries to feel her boobs. Like all of it's kind of like gross, both in the real life and then also in the mental masturbation side of it.
Which on that note, another thing I wanted to ask you guys is if you had to be one
Oh,
of these
I'm
professors, who would you be?
I'm Governale. I'm tripping balls looking for God. Like I am out there seeking illumination from the spirit world to like explain history to everyone 100%.
And like
1,000% of the time.
having your skin peel off due to stress.
1,000%. I'm there.
What about you, Brian? Who are you?
I'd probably be somebody awful like Culp.
Mm.
Dude, there are so many limericks surrounding my life right now that I can't even begin to describe to you like how infested my world is with limericks. So there's limericks in here. There was an episode of Knowledge Fight in which they talked about this soap guy that used to sponsor Alex Jones' show that just read limericks and did like dumb jokes, but mostly limericks. This book, The Calf, by this Norwegian author, Leif Hayag. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, who I'm going to be talking to for an upcoming podcast as well, along with this translator. That book is filled with limericks. What the fuck is it with limericks? Why are there limericks everywhere? Is this like suddenly like a popular thing again, or am I just like falling into one of those like Bader Meinhof scenarios?
Bring back the limerick.
I don't know. I kind of hate limericks. They feel like dad jokes to me. Like I
Hmm.
just it's
Yeah.
just something I'm not.
Like
I'm not
the
into.
dad joke of 18th century Ireland. Is that what is going? When did
That's
they,
fair.
or when did they, no, there was a
I don't
BC
know.
before 18th century. Um,
Are they Irish?
I mean, I assumed that Limerick was from the Irish canon.
I figured they're just from a bunch of wops and what do you call dirty Irish? I don't even know. Can't think of the slur. But from because I thought a lot of them had to do with like Paul Revere and stuff like that.
Mm,
Like
that's a good question.
New England Irish. Shanty? Is that a
Popularized
word?
by Edward Lear.
Okay. That's
Okay, I
interesting.
mean, I'm just assuming because there's a city in Ireland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a city in Ireland. That is true. Um,
Anyway,
anyway, so yeah, so you said you'd be Culp. Who would you be?
I would also be Culp, but because I feel like Culp is the most superficial and compared to the twisty potential darkness of all the other ones, I feel like we know exactly who Culp is, and I would rather be that. I would rather be the semi hippie sexualized professor walking around doing his limericks, and there's it like what you see is what you get.
Yeah, I think like for me, in the it seems so strange, but like in a more academic setting, I'll just kind of go along with the flow, like whatever. Like I
You're
don't want
impartial.
to. Yeah, I don't want to stand out. I don't want to say what I actually feel or what I actually believe, or I just keep that to myself because I don't want to have to answer any emails. I don't want to have a meeting, or you know what I mean. Like I don't want to have to.
If I could live without colleagues and without authority, I'd be super happy.
Sure, sure.
So this is just to like full circle the thing on limericks. Um, the origin of the limerick is unknown, but this is from Britannica, by the way, online. But it has been suggested that the name derives from the chorus of an 18th century Irish soldier's song. So
There you
there's
go.
18th century Ireland. It was popularized by Edward Lear, and the first collection, who was born in London, first collection published in
Son of King.
1820. He died in Italy.
Ah, there we
So we have
go. So,
ticking all the boxes. Anyway, that's all.
yeah. Limericks are like there's a lot of bad forms of jokes and limericks are pretty bad.
Yeah.
Puns and limericks are the same for me, essentially. One thing that I thought when I was reading this, but it turns out that I'm wrong unless you kind of miscount things, is that we've noticed that a lot of these sections that we've gone through lately are all broken up into fours. Like there's always four parts to them. And
Mm.
this one has five technically, but two are the same name, are the plant mentee particularly. Um, and I wondered about that because once I noticed it at the end of our episode last week, I was thinking like there is like four sides to like the tunnel, four sides to like most of the things that we're looking at the blackboard, things like that. They're sort of structured that way, but it doesn't quite hold for this. And I wasn't sure that it was in any other section. I didn't go back and look at it, but I just didn't notice that as a way of breaking these apart, it seems to keep hitting that number, which is unique, I think. Because a lot of people do things by threes, or it'd just be like, more random. There'd be one that's one or two or whatever. But to have the fours, one thing I do really like about this section particularly is that Gas has this ability that, and it happens earlier in the book too, but in here, where he can get off into like an abstract, high level sort of way of talking about stuff. So like when they're peeing and talking about history and what's the right way to look at it, the wrong, all the kind of ideas of like I can get more specifics on this, but when they're talking about that, it gets kind of high-minded. It's very like intellectual about history writ large. And then the next section is immediately into the meeting that they're having, and that's all very grounded, very like kind of funny. I kind of love the meeting, to be honest. I think that's one of my favorite parts because as much as I don't want to participate in meetings, watching other people have uncomfortable meetings and argue with each other is sort of amazing. Like that, like I'm there for that. Like when there's like TV shows, even like The Diplomat has a lot of people just kind of meeting with each other, and I'm like, yeah, I love this, but like in real life, no, absolutely not. But I did like that. But it is an interesting like how we can go from like that high to the grounded to get you in these different modes where it's very funny, it's very like whatever. It's very well done in terms of like hitting those ranges and not losing you. Because it'd be very easy to just stay on one higher plane and like lose a lot of readers that way. And instead, it kind of keeps you going along through that sense and through those kind of jokes, which I think is pretty masterfully done by Gas.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I still can't help but think that all of this, I don't know, it feels somewhat like allegorical to me. Um,
What would be the allegory?
I still think it like goes back to like how fascism finds a way into a culture, and when it means well, when it's smart, when it's ineffective, when it's bureaucratic, like where does the quote unquote strong man get its hold on people? Where does this come from? How does this happen? Like I keep going back to this idea of guilt and innocence, which when I'm thinking about guilt and innocence, and is it in Hitler's Germany? Is that the thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't know. It feels like when you're dealing with I don't know the destruction, like the systematic destruction of a people. There's not a lot of gray area there,
Right.
right? Like it kind of feels like there's a line, and you're on one side of it or the other. But something like guilt and innocence, that feels very gray. And so, how do we create these like gray spaces when you look at it through history? And you're like, no, there's this was. I don't stand for right and wrong in a lot of things, but that's fucked up.
Right.
And so that's wrong. And so like I don't know, you're looking at these like these meetings, this domestic history, sexual history, the history of my family, and he's trying to create these gray areas all over the place in his
Yeah.
entire life, right?
Yeah.
And even like this idea of the tunnel, like, am I tunneling in? Am I tunneling out? I don't know. It's kind of unknown. Like, I feel like everything is like this stand in for, hey, look at this terrible moment in history. How did that happen? Guess what? It can happen again. It will happen again. And it's probably going to happen to us, whether we know it or not. Like, I feel like Gas is using this Kohler character to make us think about these things. And so this whole section for me felt like a stand in for like Germany before they accepted the Nazi Party, like what steps they took to get there. It feels like that. Is it Weimar? The Weimar
Republic.
period? Yeah, I'm not like great with history, but like to me, it feels like because again, like when I'm reading this section, what I see is like a bureaucratic nightmare, right? Like it's ineffectual, like it's ineffective. It means well. It wants to fix things, but it's all just like I don't know, like political posturing, pissing, talking about talking about
Literally
grand
pissing.
plan, right? Like getting into these meetings, doing nothing, standing for nothing, being like feckless, like no, like we've got things to do, let's do it. And it's like I don't know though, but what about like it's like death by committee. So then like a strong person can just come in and like, all right,
This is what we're going to do. Here's the leadership.
Yeah.
sure.
I think
They need Martha to come on in.
this, yeah, if she's real. There's this kind of goes off of what you're saying, goes back to something you were saying earlier about like the connections between things and the fact that you can't have something without its opposite. So like guilt and innocence in this is you can't have innocence without guilt. You can't have guilt without innocence.
Yeah.
And like part of the whole idea of like, there can be people like a child that's growing up in Hitler's Germany that does not anything to prevent their parents from being like Nazis, like the amount of guilt that they take on from that, and the fact that you can't be purely innocent, you can't be purely guilty entirely, or maybe you can, but like there's some that inner combination of it kind of comes back into like what I think would be a way of portraying these sections where the Betty Boop and the other girl, where it's like, well, there's ambiguity in there, like what you're saying, like going back to like it's not it's my word against hers. Am I guilty or is she also like making this happen? Like that sort of bullshit that like is loops those things together and makes it like a muddled mess where you do create that gray area like you're saying, instead of like addressing like you probably shouldn't be touching your students and you shouldn't be
Probably,
forcing them to write.
definitely
You probably shouldn't
shouldn't.
be making them write about
Well,
Brock.
well, again, like anything, it's like he's using these colleagues as like, are they colleagues? Or are they scapegoats?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Like
Yeah, because it's not like Kohler's innocent. It's not like he's better. It's not like he's
he's seemingly much worse.
yeah.
Like the others aren't doing that. They're all just like dopes. Like Culp, I think is kind of funny because he's just like, I like when he just starts shutting up during the meeting where it's like, well, don't pay attention to me. I have people writing like all kinds of dumb theses. Like don't worry about it. Like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be weighing in on this one, but yeah, they
But
are.
no, like it's become like he's showing it as like being like just like bureaucratic, procedural. Like it's a procedural. It's ineffective, right? Like I don't know, and it goes on for like way too long.
Yeah,
So it's seemingly endless. Which does that not uh, does that not like equate really well? Um,
But that makes it, I mean, all of that nails, all of that makes the possibility of them being fake or parts of his personality even funnier, because having this meeting where they, Plan Mentee starts it by like basically like, well, Professor Kohler, and he's like, ooh, we're doing the professor title. Like, okay, this is serious business. But that adds to the humor of these could be his different personalities. They're all turning on him at
I,
once, which yeah, that
I think
strikes me as goofy.
what you say, Brian, too, about the kind of committee aspect of it, the sort of like middlingness of everyone, and like the fact that a strong man could come in and like reconstruct this whole thing is really evident on 434, where it says like, why should we not be mediocre men? Culp, a character from the comics, Plan Mentee, a clothing store dummy, Governale, some wappy opera supernumerary, Herschel, the ordinary soul itself, crushed beneath his own benevolence, incontinent, ashamed now of every human function, and I, who configure them all, who have within myself multitudes of such miserable nobodies. Which does go back to like, are they part of him or real? But at some point, I don't know how much that, like, we brought it up a lot, and we sort of like when Uncle Balt gets exposed as not being real was sort of like a moment towards that draws it in. But again, it's like one of these things where like you can go down that road and you never stop. Like it's just like, well, then everything's bullshit, and what's the point? So whether or not they're real, they are representatives of something in that sort of environment where a department, a university has this sort of setup where those kind of people who in an earlier part he says something to the effect of like, oh, here it is. None of these people behave at all according to their theories. They behave according to their characters. Where it is that kind of divorce between like, oh, I have all these grand ideas. Like I am here to expound these ideas and to write these books and these papers and do this. And then when you get to the real world, they're not those theories don't impact like what they do. What they do is impacted by the fact that they got dosed by their, teenage daughter, or like and I guess it's the same guy. Wife is like having sex with a chemist or whatever it was. Like they act in ways that don't connect to the theories. The theories are all kind of like a different space, a game, a representation, and not like their actual world, which does go back to this book is everything about it is that kind of like you're saying a projection, like, or an allegory. Like it's not what's really happening. It's what he kind of wants to have happen. Like the loot thing seems more not to go down this road, which I just tried to close off,
Yeah.
but the loot thing doesn't seems less real to me after the Betty Boop section. Like it feels like there is more of a like fantasizing and like playing this out than there is like the real life thing would be this overweight like creepy professor trapping a girl in his office, not like this like, oh, you're amazing, you're so wonderful part to it. Now maybe that one leads to the other in some way, but I don't know. It is there's like that huge difference between seeming and being in this book that shows up and over again, and I think you're hitting on it earlier, Brian.
Yeah, like if I was breaking down these sections into like political terms, what I came up with was like procedural liberalism, like committees,
Yep.
norms,
Keep
within the
moving.
academic structure. I wrote down moral diffusion,
Yeah.
just doing my job. Like I'm not responsible.
Familiar.
Right? Who do we blame? Institutional paralysis.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Uh, the allowing process to replace judgment, for instance, right? And then civility as cover. They're cowards and they evade if at all possible.
Yeah.
So it's like bang 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 bang. Like he's pointing this out with these characters, with these committees, with these meetings, with their struggles, with whatever. And then you take that map and you put it right over like Germany between World War One and World War Two, and it's like, aha, here's
Shut up.
here. This is part of the way we get here. But also, it's not my fault because I grew up this way. I had these struggles. I didn't want my life to be like this. I'm not responsible for this. Look at me. Like, I can't help but think that like, these things are happening in parallel. Like, and maybe I have my head screwed on the wrong way, but to me, I feel like Gass is looking at the liberal academic environment and he's saying like, whoa, 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 hold on, folks. Like, I know we mean well, and I'm a part of this too, but like, let's not think that we're like we can cause some problems too here. So let's be really careful.
I think there's part like within that, like we created a system that's not going to work or that's not working, but we don't want to acknowledge that it's not working, that it's leading to something else. And there is a moment on two.
Well, it's better. It's better than the alternative. And it's like, well, what's the alternative?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very fair, very fair.
Truth University or whatever. Let's Prager. What about the Prager? We could do the Prager model,
Yeah,
right? Like,
that'll be awesome.
oh, you know what? I'm going to go with moral ambiguity, and I'm going to stick my head in the tunnel now because I'm not going to know.
No, thank you. Hard pass.
Like, oh shit! Now I'm with Kohler. Damn it! I don't want to be there. This is awful. I don't like any of this. This is really uncomfortable.
But I think the things that you're pointing to is as outside, even outside of academia, the four things that you listed are all contributions to like this sort of stagnation and decline of culture and decline of
Absolutely.
like of
Yeah.
everything. And that
Yeah.
does come up almost very directly on 429. It says it is a joke, this system whereby we legitimize mediocrity, guarantee it almost, grading. Hell, if you sold an A for a suck, it would have attained at least a real value. We teach, we judge, we validate candidates for the system. We feed them like coins into the system slots. Ah, the system, the system. Let us save the system. Who is here and who loves learning more than their creature comforts? Like there is like an acknowledgement that this is all a little bit just like the media. You're just going to enforce the mediocrity. I texted you far too many times over the weekend, Brian, about this book called Blank Space by W. David Marks. I'm obsessed with that sort of delineates reasons why, from like specifically like the mid 90s onwards, culture has become very stagnant because we've set up different like ways of approaching the world related to what you just said that all kind of dovetail into this sort of like stagnation where we're just repeating things from the past with this idea of becoming like popular, and his thing is more in terms of capitalism and becoming like huge stars in a sense by reiterating stuff. But like it was the same reading this. I felt like it was the same argument that I'm seeing again. Like everywhere you look, it's like here are these things that we put in place that we're like, this is good, this is all very good on its own, and then it just leads into this sort of morass where things sit, and people are in that gray area where you're talking about, where they're like the guilt and innocence mix up. Everything's sort of like trying to make it more blurry and more ambiguous, even when you do something wrong. But outside of that, you don't really judge people in terms of like merits. It's to force everyone down to the middle. Try and make everything like pretty equal. It's like the AIification of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get all the way through it, but in 1979, Gass gave a commencement speech for Washington
Oh no shit.
University. Yeah, and I was trying to track down the transcript of it. I've got some clips of it here or there, but uh, essentially about how we don't know how to talk as human beings to one another,
Wow.
and how we can do that. And that was like the little clips that I found were kind of prescient on my mind as I was kind of like wading through all of this. And so, yeah, I'll try to finish it before over the break, so that we can. But I think it might crack a little bit like his view of academia, what we churn out with the academic institution. I don't know if we've gotten better or worse since '79 with academic rigor once we put out. I don't have a stance on that because I don't know, but I'm curious to find that transcript. If somebody happens to have it, please send us a link so we could check it out. But
That would be great. Like that.
I
That
think
sounds really
I
interesting.
think it's meaningful to some of the stuff he's saying in these sections as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. That sounds wonderful and like
Mm.
sort of like related to the John Gardner thing from last week of like these public events that he's had that reflect on this book or seem really valuable given that we're trapped inside of it. Kohler's head inside of here and Gas's like outside viewpoint. We don't want to mix that up with Kohler's per se. And he's using fiction in a certain way to achieve certain things. And I feel like didn't Ted, who's going to be on the next episode, I feel like Ted had said something about gas being like out in front of the like shit's getting like worse in the classroom. Students are like declining. Everything's sort of like fading towards the middle. I thought he brought something like that up on the last episode he was on, so this would be perfect.
Yeah, like the gist of what I got from what I found so far, and I'll investigate it more, was basically that we're being obedient just to be civil,
Interesting.
Hmm.
and that's not a good thing.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Well,
I,
especially not in a academic environment. Like,
yeah.
don't worry about being civil, like, or being obedient. Like, be truthful and stand for something, say something, like, be authentic. Like, it's it's necessary. It's otherwise we just kind of go with the flow, and who knows, what toilet we go down.
Or committee shit to death till it means
Yeah,
nothing.
we gotta.
Everything sort of falls apart. It is, I mean, one of the great criticisms of like the modern university, I think, is the sort of system process of it, that it's become more like you say that there's, theoretically there should be no bottom line for the university. You should be teaching things and there should be like a need to learn, to educate yourself, to, find truths that help change the world in one way or another, be it scientific or in the humanities. And yet, like, I feel like since the kind of conception of profit centers within the university, it's become more system like we get people in to take the money to keep
Yeah,
them going through. It's important to retain them. It's important to retain them through giving them grades that will help them pass so they stay here. And then even like within like this idea of like the thesis, that person, like, have them write that thesis for 9, 10 years. That's awesome. Who gives a shit? Like, it's just money that's coming in. Whatever will eventually pass them, they'll, be a minor professor in some place like McNeese State or whatever. And that's fine. Like, we're all just kind of generating this sort of level of like, let's keep the system going at the expense of unique individuality and thought. And
yeah. I don't have them
that's
off the
pretty
top of
cool.
my head, but there's some really good sound bites by Scott Galloway that talks about that recently.
Who's Scott Galloway? I don't know who that is.
He's like I think he teaches advertising or something at NYU or Columbia, somewhere on the island. But he's come out being really upset with profiteering off of higher education, basically. But
Yeah. That tracks. It's something it's super annoying, I think.
yeah.
I don't know. Kai, what do you have to say?
I'm listening and wondering if, I mean, we can only wonder, but if these characters all started at the place where they are now, like did they start at a more bright-eyed, bushy-tailed place as professors, or did they come in with this sort of middling, like just make it through right time, right place, just skate by and don't cause too many waves?
Hmm.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Are they jaded by the system, or are they part of the problem inherent in the system? Like, I mean, either way they are, but did they arrive with that energy, or were they forced into those molds eventually after years of just everything
I
hitting them?
guess molded.
What into?
Yeah.
I can see that. Well,
Second question, how about this? It's called The Curse of Colleagues.
Mhm.
What if we like distill it? What do you think Kohler hates about his colleagues? What does he actually hate?
is
Um,
it, does he hate them though, or is it the curse of having
Sure.
colleagues? Because they can observe you. I think the thing that they'd hate is that they can see who you are.
mm, I have a highlighted section specifically where he's talking about Herschel, and I think you hate the mirroring of yourself, the
Or-
projection of it. So he
Okay.
says, in a sense, I hate Herschel. It's true. In him I see myself as seen in him. The me in thee for thou, the nobody now. The guy who wrote an early little book, got lucky, and took tenure when it was an undefended town, and who faded into the wallpaper, became a greasy spot over which flies walked. Nobody now so successfully, he must have been nobody then, etc., etc. Um, so yeah, I
That's
think you hate the circle jerk,
it,
the mental intellectual circle jerk of it all.
that's sort of and like expands on what I'm thinking too of like they see you, so you see that they see you. You're aware of like
Hmm.
that you're also like that.
Yep.
Um, and that's frustrating. I mean,
Hmm.
it's one thing to like, especially for an intellectual to build yourself up as like I'm writing this, amazing book on my own with this, new insight, blah blah, and then you go into like your office and you walk across campus and you're like, God, these fucking people, man, this is all so pointless. Like, what are we all doing here?
Yeah.
You're arguing about the Civil War
It's like merit, man.
again.
You just become like the other person eventually, and fuck that. I don't want to tenure this.
No, there's
I want
no
to.
tenure in marriage.
I want to. I mean, what are the other campuses like? Maybe I want a new office.
No, I think you're both spot on with that mirroring idea, and that I'm trying to letting that percolate a little bit more, because it's like if nobody's wrong, or like if you think you're correct, like you're not going to feel guilty.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm like hitting it too hard, like on the nose, but this like idea of guilt and innocence. But it's like, and the character Kohler over and over and over again is like saying it's not my fault, right? Taking no responsibility for anything, and I don't know if that's actually sitting well with him. Like his uneasiness, like how uncomfortable he is, not only with this book, with himself. And this section in particular, with like all these colleagues, like again, I think it's mirroring. I think it's showing, it's reflecting, like his, like I don't stand for anything. Actually, I'm really smart. I've got it all figured out. But yeah,
There's a line here
Hmm.
that's something I just passed it. I never thought being reasonable meant being sure, which I like
yeah,
that.
Hmm.
And the stuff about like relativism that shows up in here too sort of points at what you're saying, Ryan.
yeah,
There
yeah.
is
I don't
there are a few
know.
good lines. I know we're running low on time here. There are a few good lines I want to mention. One that I really like is on four. Whoa, just lost it. Where'd you go? 419. And I only like this because at the end it's talking about uh I'll just read the sentence. That other bunch of underpants which you and I talk about a lot, Kohler, Herschel means jockeys, are the fat cats of business who meow only for money and who sell systems of belief like shoes. Hey, all our stuff is great, guy. What's your size? All I can hear is a South Park voice. I hit that and was like,
Hey
it's South
guy,
Park. Relax, relax,
hey guy.
guys. I couldn't, so I couldn't stop. But then, sort of like what we were talking about a second ago, the very end, 435. Maybe you hate me because, unlike you, I don't take the measurement of my turds. That's right, I'm careless. I just let them drop. The rest of you, shut up. I'm sick of the space you take up in my life. We are one, yes, alike, alas. We are all old farts caught in cast off pants. I differ from each of you only in one detail that once in a while I take a chance. I've written a book that I cannot bear to read. That's right, another one on the Nazis, on guilt and innocence. A book I cannot bear to read, though not for the reasons which curdle your tongue plan. No, because I see slime as our world's most triumphant substance.
He talks a lot about slime. I just realized that. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it occurred in the last section too.
Was there? God, I don't remember
I
that.
think he
But
referred to his insides as just like green slime or something about that. Anyway, sorry, that's
oh,
interrupting.
But
nope, nope.
once he has like an image, like I don't know, he transforms it kind of into like a larger, I don't know, we'll go poetic, like a conceit, and he keeps using it over and over again. It's so impressive. Like I'll do like 433 uh, on the top paragraph. He says like, "Piss on plan. The waters of forgetfulness shall wash him away like a smear of shit on the enamel." So like we have shit imagery that was before. Now we have piss and shit right there. And if we go another page down, uh, there's not one of us who hasn't sent a student off to farm some innocent little field so we could harvest its single spud for our own pot. This is a pissy poet. You said that about Pound. Pound is a pissy poet too. He pees with his nose, like continually, like piss and shit, and like he'll take that and just like use it over and over and over again in a new way. Like it's like unbelievable, fascinating. Not only does it sound, obviously all the alliterative P's, but like yeah, then the images and so there's the image clusters, sound clusters. Like it's
Yeah.
I don't know. This is on page 440 something of like okay
We,
to sustain this, and then to add in like the historical, the political, and then adding in the philosophical. It's like holy shit.
it's a lot of stuff. This is a
This
section
guy
that has
is
a lot of
this
lot
guy's
of
pissing all over
yeah.
everything.
It's all over the place. There are a lot of liquids in this section.
It's insanely, it's exhausting. It's challenging, but it's very impressive.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
This is one
like
of those when you lock this book as a whole, but this section when I locked in, I was like, I'm loving this, and then when it
this
like
is
fell out, I
out of
was like, there's too
control.
much following.
And this is one of those ones. Is like, what would you rate this book on Rotten Tomatoes? If it was like, I'll give it a 50%. When it is good, this is like the most amazing thing ever. I am tired of this. I don't even want to look at this book. Like, it is both. That is very. It's complicated. It's both of those things. Would you recommend it? Absolutely not. You should read it.
Oh, I get that. And
Yeah.
the exhaustion and also the number, like I mean, my line of the week is a parenthetical, but like every section has lines where when you hit them as a reader, you're like, how does he keep, like, he must have truly, it took him, I forget now, was it almost 30 years, 28 years?
Yeah.
That he was sitting on all these lines that entire time, and I have not seen these combinations used anywhere else in literature. Um, and it's exhausting to, yeah, to be reading genius week after week after week like this. Anyway, my parenthetical of the week is Herschel is aware the word democracy makes my stomach steam its beans. Which, like, what the fuck does
The
that mean? And
stomach
it's
steam is
amazing.
beans.
That really makes my stomach steam its beans.
Wow.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
I do
love
love
it.
that. The only other one I had was 418. My thesis taught I thought by my mentor, Magnus Tabor, peace to his spirit, that there is no nature which we are compelled to obey. Only a culture which various interests conspire to place on its empty throne is a satisfyingly gloomy point of view. And it goes on, but I like that ending there.
Hmm.
Brian, you got any others you want to throw out there?
No, I'm good.
So we're gonna be off next week for holidays, but we'll be back with the next episode. We'll drop on the podcast on January 1st of all things, and that will be covering Around the House. Sounds like good name of a section for the first of the year, I suppose, with holiday visits and whatnot.
Hmm.
Can
And
we
this
start
has
with a quote from Jordan Peterson? You gotta clean your room.
Dude, I did not know about his health issues and what that guy went into a fucking induced coma for 8 days in Russia to get treated for something. What is every time I read
That's
about some of these right-wing nut jobs, they're like, the fuck are you doing? Like, where did you come from and what is wrong with your like whole being? Anyways, this goes up to page 475, so it's a really short section. It's like not even 40 pages. So be a quick one. But we'll see you in a couple weeks. Till
See,
then.
see you next year.
See you next.
yeah.
Haha, that's one of those things that every single teacher at every single elementary school just said that same thing.
Get
Yeah, asking for a friend. I've heard of Cleveland steamer. Is there a Fort Wayne steamer?